TC America, powered by Skip Barber, is back at one of the classic venues in North American motorsport, Sebring International Raceway. This 17-turn, 3.7-mile track has a well-earned reputation as one of the most punishing on the planet, with bone-jarring bumps aplenty on a surface that in some places has been intact for 75 years. For these touring car drivers, surviving Sebring will be just as important as vanquishing their opponents over a pair of 40-minute races here this weekend in Central Florida. It's a beautiful day, great weather here, if a bit hot, but we're about ready to go racing for TC America, powered by Skip Barber. My name is Ryan Marine. Calvin Fish is alongside Amanda Busick, sweating it out for us down in the pits. We appreciate her contributions all weekend long. Just one formation lap here this weekend, Calvin. So it's an important moment here as the TC cars roll out onto the track to get prepped and ready to go, with the green flag coming here soon.
Yeah, pretty warm conditions, obviously, so it shouldn't take much to get these tires up to temperature, but what a contrast in terms of track surface. We went from the newly paved Sonoma Raceway to the bumps, as you said, 70-odd years they've been in existence here, so it's a big challenge for these teams and drivers to get their cars working well on this unique facility.
As you can see, temperatures starting to soar, with track temperatures up into the triple digits. Not quite that hot as far as ambient temperatures are concerned, but it is quite humid. And these touring cars, they are very much production-based machines, so that heat will be a storyline, I suspect, throughout the course of this 40-minute sprint race. Let's look at how the field will line up for today's race. On the row of pole position, Chris Walsh, great debut to start the season with a couple of wins in Sonoma. He'll have the Brazilian Celso Neto alongside. Then it's the father and son duo of Lucas Catania. He's the son, Joe the father, starting third and fourth. Chris DeFreitas and Aaron Kaplan starting in row number 3. At the back of the TCX field is where you'll find Cooper Broll in the 7th spot. TC class, Jeff Rica, he's on the pole. He's been the quickest all weekend long. Christian Pericarpi giving chase in one of the middies. Joey Jordan, possibly a mechanical problem with that car. We'll keep an eye on it, but right now they're set to start third. Then it's Ruben Iglesias Jr. and Sally McNulty back in row 6. Scott Thompson, starting out back in the TC class in the 2nd TC Spec Mini. Speaking of minis, it's mini on pole in TCA with the Canadian PJ Gronke. Matty Lemke starts 2nd. Alan Grossberg, who's also racing a GT2 car this weekend, he's in another mini, starting 16th overall. And Alex Garcia, late addition to the grid, Florida native who just graduated college. Congratulations to Alex. He's doing double duty between this weekend here in TC America as well as the Toyota GR Cup, all for the Skip Barber Racing School team. So that's the field that's getting set to take the green flag. It's a classic track, Calvin. Drivers will love the chance to race and win here because the legends have done so over the last 3/4 of a century.
Yeah, it's a special place, and certainly you'd love to have a victory here, and everyone in these 3 classes is going to be gunning for that here this afternoon. Plenty of room to overtake around here, very wide racetrack, and some big braking opportunities into some critical aspects of this circuit. So getting a good clean start. It's a fast start to this lap, and coming around here at a rolling pace. Turn 1 will almost be flat out in most of these cars, I feel.
Challenging corners, turns 1, turn 17. This is 17 right here. You can see the bumps even under safety car speed as the field approaches the VP acceleration zone. Chris Walsh on the right-hand side at the screen, driver's left in the black and blue BMW. He's the Rova pole winner. There's Tom Hansing in the flag stand, giving the green flag. We are racing in Sebring, and Walsh gets the jump over Celso Neto, who's coming under attack. Lucas Catania, who was 2nd in the pair of races at Sonoma to start the season, taking a peek up the inside, but the Brazilian stock car veteran, Celso Neto, was able to fend him off in the run down to turn 3.
Yeah, Lucas thought about making a move, then got on the brake pedal. There we see the TC start led by Jeff Rica.
Jeff with that big mechanical back in Sonoma race 2. We saw him hop out of a car that was on fire at the time. Great work by the Gen Racer team to have that car prepped and ready to go. Good start by Joey Jordan in the Cork Sport Mazda. He's up to 2nd in the TC class. That's great news because that team had some mechanical issues in the build-up to this race, and that car might not be at 100%, but Joey's still wringing its neck here in the early stages as Walsh leads overall.
Yeah, he had a great start, Joey Jordan did. That little lock up there in a turn 3 criticism corner. He does have a left front shock issue, so that may be creating some crossway issues into these brake zones. We'll have to watch out for that here today.
Walsh, Neto, Catania. Catania looking very aggressive here in the early stages. Native of New York State, putting the pressure on the Brazilian who now calls Florida home. Celso Neto in the Skip Barber Racing Acura. Brand new Integra to the championship here this year to go up against the BMWs.
See how these two cars compare here, accelerating off of Tower Corner. That's turn 13, the big run down to Bishop, flat out through this left-hand sweeper here. Great start by Chris Walsh from the pole, got the jump and has taken off. Now he can just hit his marks. Doesn't have to think about defending into these brake zones.
Neto, though, does have to play some defense because Catania is there, poked his nose to the inside but couldn't draw alongside that white and red Skip Barber Racing School entered Honda, make that Acura Integra. But look at this, Celso Neto going super defensive here down the long Oldman straight, and Catania sitting in the slipstream, doing his best to make a move. Here he goes, popping to the inside. It'll be side by side into turn 17, the first time of asking.
Yeah, you just got to feel your way through in the inside there, and Lucas makes that move, but now he's on the bumpier part of the racetrack, and Celso just accelerates off of turn 17 and maintains position 2.
Fantastic news for Chris Walsh, who has built a lead of 1.4 seconds the first time by. Walsh in the black and blue car, then it's the Acura of Neto, then it's Catania in the BMW, the first of 2 white BMWs run out of the rigid speed camp.
Neto there a little bit wider with his exit off of turn 1. A little bit wide there in turn 3, misses his marks, he's up on the curb, he's vulnerable right now. Lucas Scott trying to do the crossover here as they accelerate through turn 5. Neto really feeling the pressure there, just overdrove that sequence of corners a little bit.
Able to recover though, parrying the thrust of Lucas Catania. Lucas has his father looming large in the rearview mirror. This is the rundown to the hairpin, turn number 7 here at Sebring, which went through a reprofile a couple of decades ago.
Much needed. It's got a little bit of extra runoff room there if you should have some kind of technical failure. Otherwise, you're literally straight into the fence with the old configuration.
That reconfiguration done for safety reasons, and for a time, this new configuration was known as the safety pin rather than the hairpin. I learned that recently.
Pericarby's got around Joey Jordan here, so Joey Jordan had an excellent start. There was thoughts of him even going to the back of the pack with consideration of his car not being 100%, but he seems to have decent speed.
Other class leaders, Rika continues to lead in TC. PJ Gronke, who swept the weekend in Sonoma, he leads in TCA ahead of Matty Lemke, but right now, this is the best battle on the racetrack. It's happening some 2 seconds behind the race leader, Chris Walsh. Celso Neto leading the father and son duo of Lucas and Joe Catania.
Yeah, and I think Lucas is going to get pretty anxious here. You can see Chris Walsh just disappearing up the road, so if he's got any thoughts on grabbing a win here today, he's got to figure out a way to get by Celso Neto here for P2 first of all, and then go chase down Chris, but Chris is looking pretty dominant here early in this race.
In 2 full-time seasons of TC America competition, Lucas Catania has amassed 20 podium finishes. That was coming into this year. He actually added a couple more to that in Sonoma, and he had one in a one-off start back in 2021. Just 1 win, though, and you know that is something that is sticking under the craw of Lucas Catania as he's anxious to make this move here on Celso Neto. 5 minutes in the books, and it's a chance now to check in with the third member of the broadcast team. Amanda Busick is standing by pinside.
Hey, Ryan, and I will confirm we do have a hot one down here today here at Sebring International Raceway. You were talking about Celso Neto. He's got his former team owner all the way from Brazil here with him this weekend, but was really happy coming off of Sonoma. He did find the podium in race 1, but there was a BOP adjustment overnight for these Acuras. They will have max boost here for the race. When I talked to Lucas Catania about it, he said, I got to make my moves early on that Acura to have a chance at Chris Ross, but as you can see, he's extending that battle as well. But yeah, keep an eye on this Acura BMW battle. I think we're going to see it all day.
Well, Celso seems like good one lap pace. He's only 2/10 off of Chris Walsh's pole, but seems in race conditions here. I'm not sure if they made a setup or maybe the track has warmed up a little bit from this morning's qualifying session, but his car is definitely slipping and sliding a little bit through the tighter stuff. Now Lucas looks down at the inside. This is turn 10. This is going to get tight there. Celso sweeps across. Joseph Quintana look for an opportunity sitting there in P4.
Good respect between the two of them. They gave each other plenty of racing room, and so it remains Celso Neto leading Lucas Quintana here at Sebring International Raceway. You heard Amanda reference Celso's Brazilian former car owner making the trip. Well, Celso's a former touring car champion in his native Brazil. Back in 2022, he's done a lot of racing there in Brazilian stock cars, actually made a couple of NASCAR Brazil starts last year, and yeah, he doesn't mind that car sliding around under him. He's used to the front-wheel drive platform.
Yeah, but it's early in this race. I mean, we're only like 7 minutes into this deal, a 40-minute sprint race admittedly, but you've got to be careful there in terms of keeping the balance of the race car.
CrowdStrike fastest lap of the race to the pole man who's out front, Chris Walsh. Neto going on the defensive. This time, Quintana will try the outside. We saw him struggle over the bumps trying to make the inside move work a few laps ago. But again, Celso Neto has the measure of the upstate New Yorker.
Yeah, it seems like Celso really gets off of turn 17 very well. I think Quintana may have a bit more speed on entry, but maybe that's compromising. He might have a bit more turn in the car mid-corner when you're trying to get back to power, particularly as you're bouncing over those cracks in the pavement there. And it could also be just a slightly different gear ratio. Maybe the Honda's a bit more suited to the acceleration off of that corner compared to the BMW.
It is nice to see the two platforms racing on pretty even footing here this weekend. It did seem like the BMW had the measure of the Acura at Sonoma. Look at Neto, though. Boy, he's got his hands full, and Quintana now has drawn alongside, door mirror to door mirror in the run down towards the hairpin.
Yeah, so Lucas looks like he's got his nose ahead, but Celso's got that inside lane, and see who's the bravest on the brakes here. Look at that Celso dancing that nose on the car, just keeping it underneath him.
Door opens on quarter exit for Quintana to swing up the inside, and this will be the inside for the next big braking zone. This could be the chance here for Lucas Quintana to grab second spot away, and you heard from Amanda, he knows he needs to get this done early if he's going to have a chance to fight with Walsh. It's not done yet. Neto fighting on gamely on the outside. Will he give up the ghost? Not yet. They're still side by side.
Lucas is going to have the inside here for turn 13. This is Tower. Celso's going to try and just time the run, not clip him coming off the corner, just get that better acceleration run. He does it really nicely, but really nowhere to go with it at this sector of the racetrack.
Neto trying to come back, does get to the inside of Quintana, who gave him just enough room. What a duel this has been. Side by side for the better part of a full lap. Oh, Neto swings
Joseph
wide.
to the outside. Can he go to P2 from P4? 3 abreast into the brake zone for 16.
Oh, Neto's going to have some momentum rolling around the outside. Not sure what race control will think about going up and over the curbs there. A couple corners back, it was the long way around, but it did let him keep that momentum up, and for now, that could be the difference. In the meantime, Chris Walsh just extends that lead, but the fight for second, third, and fourth still on here in the run into turn 17.
I think for Lucas, he's just got to force the issue. He's getting right in a position. He's just got to jam it down there and slow things down and just keep Celso off his flank, but he's kind of getting down to the inside and then just kind of being a little bit conservative. I think he's got to dive it a little bit deeper when he's got that inside lane and just clear him and almost force him out and seal the deal.
Fifth place, Aaron Kaplan is starting to enter the conversation here too because of the battles between these three. That's the green-nosed car just out back of this triumvirate. Oh, Neto again wide this time. Quintana back up the inside. They continue this fight, and this time the job is done for Lucas Quintana.
Yeah, Celso's just really struggling just to get the car slowed down and turned in to turn 3 there. That's been pretty consistent, but now he's got to run. And the fight he's displayed so far in this race, he may have another go at him in the brake zone here for turn 7.
Sure looks that way. Quintana to the inside. And the report from race control is indeed that Celso Neto was requested and required to give that position back because of going outside of track limits. So that was orchestrated to an extent, but Neto now back on the counterattack, trying to grab second spot back.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that was real, if that was just a legit pass and it just coincided with the order from the stewards department as well. Here we see a little bit of rub there. Through 14 into 15, Celso just takes the shortcut essentially, and that's probably going to get the call every single time, as you alluded to, Ryan.
And now Neto starting to come under pressure from Joseph Catania, and again Aaron Kaplan starting to reel them in. Let's keep an eye on him.
I'd be surprised here if Lucas can't take off a little bit. I don't think he's maybe got enough time or maybe even the pace to chase down Chris Walsh. That gap has exploded to over 7 seconds to the leader back to this pack we're looking at. So I think Catania now will be able to maximize his speed around this race circuit, having cleared finally Neto, and now his dad is having a run at him as well.
No pressure on Lucas Catania this time. The pressure is now in the fight for third, with Celso Neto fighting for all he's worth to keep Joseph Catania behind him. Amanda reports that the Skip Barber team thinks this Acura should get better as the race goes along. So right now, Celso Neto just trying to hang on. All of this happening nearly 10 seconds behind Chris Walsh. That's the lead, first back to second. There's Kaplan coming through in fifth, and now we drop back and pick up this battle here. Cooper Broll in the first car coming through, then Chris DeFreitas, but then we get to the leader in TC, and there he is, Jeff Rica, second in class, Christian Pericarpi in the Mini, and some good battles here.
Yes. Joey Jordan leading Sally McNulty and Ruben Iglesias Jr. He's actually the championship leader after the 2 rounds at Sonoma.
Sally McNulty also had a great weekend there in Sonoma. She runs in the fourth spot, just off the podium in class. Joey Jordan in the Cork Sport Mazda, that beautiful white and blue livery that harkens back to some of the great Mazda RX-7s that raced here stateside back in the late 80s, early 90s.
I raced one of those Mazdas right here at Sebring, in fact, Sebring 12-hour back in 1991.
Bet that was a blast.
It was loud.
This was really close between teammates, and these two did come together, if you remember, in one of the races at Sonoma.
Yeah, that was almost a big one.
So Joey Jordan in the Mazda, then the 2 Hyundais, Ruben Iglesias Jr. and Sally McNulty. Second year for Sally in this TC class after a number of years in TCA.
She had a really nice weekend in Sonoma. Since P2, or tied for P2 with Joey in the points right now.
She told me earlier in the weekend she's just found a new shop to work out of. She does a whole lot of mechanical work herself, and if you follow her on social media, I know that she'll give frequent updates of all the projects she's working on. But super excited about that, and as ever, engaging with the fans here this weekend on social media as well as in person. As we look at the TCA class leader, this is PJ Gronke, former TCB champion going back to 2017, the final year of that category. And PJ Gronke now in, I think, his 3rd year with the Mini team. With a couple of wins under his belt back at Sonoma, had that big breakthrough win, I believe it was at VIR last year, that was so popular within the paddock.
Yeah, certainly a lot of passion in that entry. And looking at this battle here for P2, Catania leads, Celso Neto. Looks like the car settled back down again. The team did allude to the fact they hoped the balance would come back to Celso. Maybe with that front-wheel drive car, they can lose a little bit of grip. It looked like the car was loose early in the going, so if he loses a little bit of front grip, maybe it'll balance it out and give him a faster race car. I'll have to wait and see.
Good news for Lucas Catania. He was the fastest car on track, or at least he turned his best lap, I should say. Still about a half second off of Chris Walsh's lap the last time by. I do wonder if the thought is maybe you save those tires, hope a yellow comes out, and then you've got something to fight with on a potential restart.
Yeah, you need to be talked through that for Chris Walsh. His team will certainly be giving him the gap back to this battle for P2. And you're spot on. You don't want to just get the hammer down, dominate the race, and just take everything out of those tires in case you should get a quick reset and a shootout for the finish. So got to be smart with that.
Joe Catania running 4th here in the white BMW, trailing Celso Neto. 2 full-time seasons the last 2 years in this championship, finished 8th and 7th in points respectively, including a first career podium last year.
You know, there's a bit of a battle. I think Lucas has told us that he feels his dad's car is a slightly more powerful engine, which his dad is unwilling to give up. Imagine that.
Do you blame him?
No. I think that's great, actually, rather than just, okay, son, you have the fastest car.
That's right.
Like, no way, huh? I'm in this to win and get podiums as well.
Right there in the slipstream. And that's the fight here for the final podium spot. Neto and Catania. It would be just a 2nd career podium for Joe if he were able to make that pass. Joey Jordan here coming under pressure from Sally McNulty. Does that mean Ruben has gotten by? Yes, it does.
Yeah, Ruben's up the way, up in the P3.
Yeah, Cal, you mentioned the shock issue for the Mazda. Go figure, here at Sebring, it's the shock that gives out, right? Going over all these bumps. But I think they've got a more complete fix planned for tomorrow, but they were able to put something together in order to run here today. And Joey had that great start, got up to 2nd, but there you saw him just slip behind Sally McNulty, and it looks like that car is struggling.
Yeah, and obviously it wouldn't be shock related down the straightaway, so I wonder whether the heat of the day it's affecting the straight line performance. As you said, with these basically production-based vehicles, they can have some safety technical features that kick in and take away a bit of power if it gets too warm. It's not extreme like we saw here last year on our visit, which was much later in the season, of course.
Let's get more on this story in the pits now with Amanda.
Yeah, as you talk about Joey Jordan, I caught up to him prior to the race. He was really happy with his finishing positions at Sonoma. Had a P3 and P2 weekend, hoping for one more step here this weekend, whether it be in race 1 or race 2. But he was talking about the Mazda and being able to adjust the ride height to effectively execute the bumps here at Sebring. But when you think of a line in a front-wheel drive car, what is the magic here?
Well, I think with the front-wheel drive car, you're asking the car to do everything. Do you know what I mean? It's doing the accelerating, it's doing the turning, and when you've got a warm racetrack like we have here today, you've got to manage that. You just got to feel it. You just got to be really sensitive to when you're accelerating off the corner that you're just basically not burning them down. So that's where we think about the car of Celso Neto, if it can come back in here a little bit in terms of the front-wheel drive, maybe losing a bit of grip from the front, but balancing the car. Speed is all about balance. You just don't want too much grip one end or the other. You need it to be really balanced through some of these high-speed corners.
Joey's a really experienced driver, too. Came up through Spec Miata Racing, was part of the Teen Mazda Challenge back in 2013. Finished 6th at the SCCA runoffs in Spec Miata in 2013 as well. And usually those are fields of 60, 70, 80 cars. So to run in the top 10 is an achievement. And he's actually done a lot of racing in Central America over the last few years. I remember his late father Joe telling me with a great deal of pride about some of the cool things he's done.
Yeah, he's a great story, great personality, and kind of a unique, bit of a renegade, kind of has a different approach to life, which is pretty fun to watch and hear about.
And his uncle, Jim Jordan, who for many years was part of the SRO America staff, he's with that Cork Sport team this weekend, and we anticipate for the rest of the season helping to manage that squad, call some strategy, such as it is in a 40-minute sprint race. And Jim's got some experience doing exactly that. He was part of the Dempsey Racing team for many, many years. Also involved with Mazda there, actually, for a long time with the RX-8 that Patrick Dempsey raced.
Yeah, a ton of experience, and great to have him have the ability now to spend a bit more time with Joey's program.
Let's see, what do we have here?
Well, this is not an in-class battle here. This is the crossover with the leader in TC getting ahead a couple of the TCX machines.
That's right. So it's Cooper Broll. That's Jeff Rica, the leader in TC. Then Cooper Broll. And behind Cooper is Chris DeFreitas. Those two are fighting for a position. This battle hasn't gone anywhere. Celso Neto hanging on by the skin of his teeth to the final position on the podium. Currently 3rd. That's the Acura coming right at you, followed by Joseph Catania, who sits 4th.
The Acura just doesn't look as balanced. Looks a bit more awkward, doesn't it? Like Celso's really struggling to kind of find the right rhythm with this race car, whereas the BMWs around him seem to be a bit more manageable and a bit more in their comfort zone.
Let's remember, this BMW is now in third or fourth year, so certainly well developed at this point. The teams will understand it. They'll have raced here before, of course, and have that notebook to go draw upon. This Acura, though, is brand new for 2024. It's really exciting when it was announced, and I know a lot of work went into courting another manufacturer to sign up for the TCX class regulations.
Well, to be quick, you need good balance. You need the front and the rear of the car to be working together, and I think that's what Celso may be struggling a bit with, observing it from the outside at least. I'm not behind the wheel, but just seems he's not super consistent, and he's just sort of like struggling to figure out, particularly down in this next one. See, he's wide there through turn 1. That's been pretty consistent. And then down here into turn 3, struggles to get the car turned in. A little bit better there, so maybe he's just controlled his entry speed a little bit to tidy things up.
Just past the halfway mark in the first of 2 40-minute sprint races this weekend for TC America, powered by Skip Barber. And as you can see, Skippy, not just the series sponsor, but they've got teams that race here in this championship, and that program has continued to expand over the past few years.
I think it's a great idea and concept to basically create a ladder system out of some of their school programs that you can then go pro racing.
We've seen a number of drivers transition through the ranks doing that as this fight now starts to encounter a bit of lap traffic. That's the second place car in TCA, Maddie Lemke, that they worked their way through. Maddie, who made her debut at Indianapolis at the tail end of the year last year.
Beautiful flow through this sector here. This is Tower Corner, turn 13. Really important to get the power down early and get that launch, because you see curves coming up ahead, but they're all flat out in these cars.
Peek inside the cockpit as these two drivers continue to toil away on a hot early spring day here in Florida. All the while, Chris Walsh continues to lead. It's now 10.5 seconds. The lead has more or less stabilized. You get the sense that both Walsh and Catania perhaps are conserving their tires for a potential restart should there be a safety car intervention.
Yeah, I think for Catania, he's kind of pushing pretty hard. I mean, his last lap was only 0.2 off his best. I think for sure Walsh was probably managing. He's about a second off his previous best lap, which is the fastest lap of the race, which will also give him pole for tomorrow as it stands right now. Fast lap today gives you your grid position for race 2.
The affable PJ Gronke continuing to lead in the TCA class. He's got the overall leader coming through, so these are 2 of the 3 class leaders now here in the same shot. Walsh will work to the outside, flashes those headlights just to make sure PJ knows he's coming, but PJ is a veteran campaigner at this stage. He won't be caught off guard by a faster class car coming through, and indeed makes way for Chris Walsh.
PJ might have had a bit of a moment on the last lap. His last lap was some 6 seconds off his best. So I'm not sure if he's got any technical issue or whether he just had a particularly bad lap. That's a big delta.
Yeah, good point. It was still quicker than the second place car of Maddie Lemke. We'll keep an eye on that for the leader in TCA, PJ Gronke. Chris Walsh continues to hold the title for the CrowdStrike fastest lap of the race. That would put him on the Rova pole position for race 2 tomorrow, as you talked about, Cal.
And they're the things that you need the team to tell you, like, okay, fast lap, are we good there? Have we ticked that box? Is it vulnerable? I'm not sure that Lucas has a surprise up his sleeve in suddenly finding a second, even though these Pirelli P0s seem to do very well in terms of not degrading too much. I think it would be a big ask for Lucas to get near to that fast lap of the day and steal it away from him.
Chris Walsh now calls Florida home, but originally from North Carolina, played college football at Valparaiso University in Indiana, and actually spent some time as part of the U.S. national bobsled team for a number of years, but always had an interest in racing. And in addition to his career, which is still ongoing in the military, he has
Chris
put this together. I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, I wonder if he was inspired by the old Jag
Yep.
prototype team. Was based in Valparaiso for a number of years back in the late 80s, early 90s.
Race Vision powered by AWS shows that the Sector 3 best time belongs to Lucas Catania right here. Just a fraction quicker than Chris Walsh. Yeah, not sure about that. I know when I talked
Probably
to him,
before he was born.
it might have been. But he, like so many that had a passion for this stuff, but not the means or opportunity to participate, he got his start doing a bunch of esports racing, sim racing, and actually got hooked up with Samantha Tan Racing's esports outfit, and that's who he raced for initially when he made his series debut back in, when would that have been? 2022. I guess that actually wasn't his debut. He had done 2 races the previous year in TCX, but then the following year ran a couple races for the STR38 team. Last year made 4 starts in Pirelli GT4 America, and also ran a partial season in Porsche Sprint Challenge. But this is the program this year, and he's off to a really strong start with a couple of wins in Sonoma, and at the moment looks in firm control for what would be a 3rd consecutive victory to start 2024.
Joseph Catania is looking really steady there, sitting in P4, just eyeing Celso Neto, looking for him to make that little error and maybe open up the door. And a really nice job. His son has taken off from this duo a little bit. Catania's lead over Neto is now 3.7 seconds. Last lap around, Lucas Catania's laid down his fastest lap of the race at 2:20.5, so that's a nice improvement. He's still got 8/10 to go to get to that fastest lap of the race set by Walsh.
Here's 2nd place in the TC class, Christian Pericarpi, driving for his father's LAP Motorsports team that have run minis for probably close to 2 decades now. First in IMSA competition before migrating over here to TC America. Last year finished 4th in points, 7 podiums, a pole and a fastest lap, but no race wins. It's been since 2022 rather, when he was racing in TCA since he last tasted victory. It was a 3-win season for Christian.
Didn't have a great start to his campaign, had a P5 finish in race 1 at Sonoma, no points scored in the 2nd there, so he's already dug a pretty big hole as coming in as one of our preseason championship favorites.
Sits 13 seconds, nearly 14 seconds behind the leader, Jeff Rica, here at the moment with 11 minutes to go in race 1 of the weekend. Let's check back in with Amanda Pinside.
Yeah, I was talking to Christian ahead of this race on just about the mini here at Sebring. He said that race is a little stiff around this place, but still fun and enjoyable. They did have a little fuel pump change ahead of the race after qualifying, but said he has a winnable car here this weekend and hopes to find that top step that he's been missing, as you guys just discussed, for races ahead.
Yeah, his best lap is half a second off of Rica, so it's certainly a few tweaks on the race car. He could come back a little bit stronger for tomorrow, but right now Rica would start from the TC pole.
Christian made his debut here at Sebring. That was back in 2021, ran the last 4 races of the season in that year, which were 2 races here at Sebring and then 2 at his home track, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and actually scored a podium on that debut weekend, having really no previous racing experience outside of some karting that he had done locally in Indiana.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty emotional podium. I think the family are pretty stoked about that day, as I recall.
And speaking of the mini team, here is Alan Grossberg, who we will see again later today, racing a much different car. He'll also be in the GT America powered by AWS race in the GT2 class in one of those souped-up Lamborghini Super Trofeo cars that fit into the GT2 regs. So that effectively means he is driving in the class this weekend under the SRO umbrella with the most horsepower, and then this class, the class with the least
That's incredible. Probably about 400 horsepower difference between the two.
Of course, also front-wheel drive here in the Mini as opposed to rear-wheel drive in the Lamborghini. He's doing the full season in the GT2 class. He's had a couple good results at Sonoma and also at Long Beach the last time out for GT America. Inside the final 10 minutes, so this is starting to get down to the nitty-gritty between Neto and Catania. This battle that has raged really since the start of the race. It was 3 cars for some time, with Lucas Catania also involved in this fight. Lucas got the pass made some 15 minutes ago and has started to scoot away. And Neto continues to slide that car. It's like he's backing the car into the corner, almost like you do on a motorcycle.
Yeah, he's really having to set it up to get through the corner, so I think he's struggling a bit with the car, certainly, but not enough that he's opening up the door for Joseph. I think Joseph's main opportunities were coming when his son was embroiled in the battle as well, but they're kind of running the line astern here, and time is running out. Just over 8 minutes to go for Joseph to try and figure out a solution to this puzzle and grab that podium spot. There's such a huge difference, Ryan, as you know, between a podium finish and P4, so it's almost like going for the win. You want it the worst possible way. He looks to the inside a little bit too late to make that happen. Celso's not afraid to get pretty aggressive here when he does get side by side with anyone.
Well, and as mentioned, Joe Catania has just the 1 podium on the resume, and that one, if I remember this correctly, came when his son got DQ'd.
Oh, Celso's off the road. It's going to cost him acceleration.
For a technical infraction, and so it was a bittersweet podium. I think he would love to get up there and share the podium with his son, which is a real possibility here if he can make this pass. I'll tell you what, Neto has looked vulnerable at times, but he does a great job regrouping when he drops a wheel or misses an apex. He's pretty focused in once he makes that error to prevent it compounding.
Yeah, I'm really curious to whether the track has gotten away from their setup a little bit, or if they made some changes anticipating that being a little bit warmer than qualifying. Because in qualifying, which is all about just single lap pace, he was only 2/10 off of Chris Walsh. And now he sits probably 20 seconds back from Chris in race conditions.
Well, and comparing their best lap in race conditions, the Gulf is almost 2 seconds, right? So, yeah, it is a pretty big difference as Joe Catania again takes a look up the inside. Neto, though, gives him enough room, sweeps across the bow, and hangs on and actually builds a bit of a gap this time exiting turn number 1.
He certainly tidied up turn 3. He's a lot better through there. He was really missing that apex a lot in the early phases of this race. And there you see him sideways again, just pulling that out with the front wheel drive car, just mashing the gas pedal to control that slide and get acceleration run down here towards turn 7.
Did you ever do much with a front-wheel drive platform?
No, I ran the Mid-Ohio school, which utilized Honda and Acura products, so just with school cars, but never raced a front-wheel drive car.
How hard was it, though, even in those school cars, to transition to that mindset that you're in a slide, so you need to put the throttle down, which is the opposite of what you want to do in a rear-wheel drive car?
Yeah, it's definitely you know, a different dynamic to it. I mean, other than that, they drive very similar. You kind of don't drive them totally different, but as you said, once you're in a slide, your natural process with the rear wheel drive is to control it by feathering the throttle versus this just getting back to power and pulling it out of the slide, having the front wheels pull the car straight, literally.
It's cool to see the 2 different platforms here, the rear wheel drive BMW, the front wheel drive Acura, and compare and contrast. I mean, for many years, this class was effectively a BMW spec class. We had the detuned Honda TCR car last year, but this is 2 very similar platforms in a lot of respects, but the big difference being which axle is doing all the work. And I think it could be fun all season long to see the advantage ebb and flow depending on the track.
I think in terms of torque and acceleration and top speed, they seem very similar.
Yes.
I mean, I think we're just looking at Celso struggling with the handling of the car a little bit, or maybe overdriving on occasion. I'm not sure what he's dealing with, but BMW looks a lot steadier through the corners, more comfortable. Right there, Celso seems to accelerate really strongly off of turn 17, but then they're pretty equal.
Under 5 minutes to go, so just a few laps remaining here in the first race of the weekend. Again, Catania looking to the inside. Again, Neto closes the door. Really, Catania just wasn't close enough to make that move a viable one. They do have some traffic to contend with here, though, with Grossberg looming up the road in that yellow Mini.
I think for Joseph, he needs to just follow Celso through turn one, because I think by sort of like nipping down at the inside, he's not really in a position to make a move there, and there's not a lot of slowing going down through the apex of turn one in these cars with the speed that they have on approach. So I'd just focus more on getting the big radius through turn one and maybe in a position to take advantage if Celso does a little slide down into turn three.
Traffic did separate these two, if only for a few corners, and it does seem like Catania has been able to erase that gap pretty much immediately. So it does appear at this stage that the BMW is the quicker package, at least right now, but Neto has been stalwart in his defense, finding a rearguard action basically for the entirety of this race.
Well, he turns in so late to some of these corners, maybe because of the handling issues he's got, that, you know, when you're following, you're almost like, well, get on with it. Do you know what I mean? It almost tempts you to sort of like poke your nose down at the inside, but then Celso's back on the power and taken off.
Finished third in the TC Class Championship last year, did Celso Neto, for this same Skip Barber School team. 1 win, 9 podiums in that campaign. He's also been doing a little racing this year in Brazil in a Peugeot TCR car in TCR Brazil. Bouncing back and forth between continents as he's done the last couple of years, running primarily here in the States, but with some partial schedules in his native country. 2.5 minutes to go. The leader just crossed the timing line, so unless he slows down a lot, which I suppose he could with the gap that he has, but that seems unlikely. I think we're looking most likely at 2 more laps to go. Time's starting to run out here for Joseph Catania if he wants to make this pass stick and get to share the podium with his son. He's taken a look here into turn one each of the last 2 laps here, Calvin. Will he take your advice and stay in line? It looks like he will.
Yeah, what he needs to do now is just really focus it, get the big speed through there. I mean, occasionally Celso's wide through turn one and he struggles a bit at entry at turn 3, but he executed turn 1 really nicely there, so no opportunity for Catania at this stage.
Neto pretty tidy to start this lap. Has not opened up a possibility for Joseph to try and pounce, force his way through.
That's really a tidy turn 5 there for Celso. He's typically sideways as he's halfway through that corner, and that was, had the car underneath him that time.
Well, it doesn't quite have the same pressure he's had over the last few laps either, and maybe that allows you to focus just that little bit more, or take a line that might leave you vulnerable if someone was tucked up behind you. But in this case, you know, you don't have to worry about playing defense. At least not quite as much. Catania's made a couple moves here. Not close enough to do it this time. Chris Walsh continues to lead by 12 seconds. Jeff Rica leading in the TC class. PJ Gronke looks set to take his 3rd consecutive win in TCA. The report was there were no issues with the car. That lap we noted a few laps ago that was slower. PJ was just letting traffic through and was not under any pressure, so eased out of it.
I mean, so far in this championship season, each class has been somewhat dominated. Walsh on his way to 3 in a row. Jeff Rica looking for his 2nd victory. He was leading at Sonoma, as I recall, but had a technical issue, so he could have swept that weekend. And obviously Gronke looking for his 3rd straight, also in TCA.
White flag this time by for the leader, Chris Walsh. Fantastic start to the season for Chris and the Karis race team. He takes the white flag. 1 lap to go. 17 turns here at Sebring for Chris Walsh as he seeks his 3rd straight win to start this 2024 campaign. Lucas Catania has taken the white flag. Then comes the battle for 3rd and 4th. Celso Neto has an edge now. It's up over a car length. Celso Neto over Joseph Catania into turn number 1.
Yeah, he's really settled things down. He's actually gapping Joseph here as we get to the later stages. lap times are looking like? He's about a second off his best lap of the race on that last run across the stripe.
Now these two, with a little assistance from Lucas Catania, they were the show here today. Great fight in the first half of the race. Second, third, and fourth. Aaron Kaplan for a moment there looked like he might be able to jump up into that conversation. But it's been all about this man, Chris Walsh, who started from the Rover pole position. The CrowdStrike fastest lap of the race means he will almost certainly, unless somebody uncorks something special here on the final lap, he will start from pole tomorrow too, as he continues this perfect start to the season, batting 1,000 coming in, looking to add a third win and as many races, and he's halfway there on this final lap. Race Vision powered by AWS Circuit Performance. Chris Walsh in sectors 1 and 2 has the edge. It's Lucas Catania with the edge in that third sector. Oh, bit of a twitch there. He's still pushing.
He is. He's having fun. And I think for Lucas Catania, it looks like he's going to have a fast lap that'll put him on the front row tomorrow, and that's what he needs to do, not get messed up with Neto there like he did early in this race, and see if he can keep the pressure on Walsh and may create a different dynamic for Walsh if he has to be defensive in the early going tomorrow.
Yeah, that probably did cost Lucas a chance to at least put a challenge on Walsh, because by the time he was clear of Neto, he was already 10 seconds adrift. And that means Chris Walsh was relatively untroubled. He's got the hand in the air as the checkered flag waves here at Sebring International Raceway. Chris Walsh and the Karis Kallis race team go 3 for 3 to start the 2024 season and pick up a win here on the historic circuit, Sebring International Raceway. In the TC class, it is Jeff Rica who continues to show the way. The car behind him is not for class position. That is a car in the TCX class. Lucas Catania has crossed the line to take second. Neto did fend off Joe Catania for the final step of the podium in TCX.
It was close there at the end, only half a second between the Neto and Catania.
Good bounce back, though, here for Jeff Rica and that Gin Racer team. I mean, the last time we saw this car, it looked like it was going up in flames there in Northern California. But Jeff Rica has proven to be the class of the field throughout the course of this weekend. It's carried over into race day number 1. Jeff Rica out of the final corner for the final time. He'll take the checkered flag first as the Gin Racer squad applauds. Their patriarch takes the victory in the first of 2 races here this weekend.
I think with that victory, that'll leapfrog him up to the top position in points as well.
PJ Gronke, another one looking to go for a clean sweep to start the season. Just 1 win in, well, since 2017 for PJ Gronke. Coming into this year, he picked up 2 in Sonoma and is well on his way to a 3rd in as many races. Here he comes, PJ Gronke from Canada, making the trip down to Florida. He told me earlier in the weekend, I love the heat. The hotter, the better, as far as he's concerned. He feels right at home here in Florida, and he will exit the final corner for the final time. There's the checkered flag for PJ Gronke. 3 straight wins to begin the 2024 campaign.
Yeah, great result for him. He's always had the ability. He's always had the reliability from his race cars, so that's really nice to see him have a solid start to the 24 season.
Chris Walsh still celebrating on the cool-down lap. He's got the yellow glove out the window, saluting the fans, saluting the team, and everyone who makes this possible. This is a remarkable story for a man who's still a member an active member of the United States Air Force, but loves his motorsport, worked really hard to put this together, and continues to celebrate as he makes his way towards pit lane and ultimately to victory lane, where we will be hearing from him here shortly. There is Jeff Rica. Narrowly missed out on a championship last year, despite the fact that he missed a couple of races due to his commitments with Hyundai racing at the Nürburgring 24. He appears to be out for blood here, though, this year with the way that the season has started. The one technical issue notwithstanding, they have shown incredible pace through 3 races. Provisional race results, it's Walsh by 13 seconds over Lucas Catania. Celso Neto third after a great battle with Joseph Catania. Aaron Kaplan, bit of a quiet race, but strong. He finishes in the 5th spot. Jeff Rica, the leader and the winner in the TC class. You got to go down to 9th overall to find the leader, make that second place car in TC. Christian Pericarpi. Then it's Ruben Iglesias Jr., who heads home his teammate Sally McNulty. Joey Jordan faded late after running as high as second and will come home in the 12th spot rather overall, ahead of Scott Thompson. Then in TCA, PJ Gronke, Matty Limke, a couple of Canadians, 1st and 2nd. Alan Grossberg and Alex Garcia, who ultimately it doesn't look like took the start here today. Have to get to the bottom of that. Listed though in the 17th and final position. And so look at the hotel here in turn 7 at Sebring International Raceway. Sounds like we've got a chance to hear from some of our race winners, so let's waste no time down to Amanda Busick.
And a group of hugs from his team. And Chris, you start the season continuing on your perfect streak, this one in dominating fashion. You're going to have Lucas Catania next to you tomorrow. Can he hold you accountable?
Absolutely. I mean, you know, Lucas is fast. I think he got held up with Celso in a battle for a while. I could see it in my rear view, so I took advantage of that. Just set the pace that I knew would be tough for Celso to hold on to, and that built enough of a gap, and then it was just managing the rest of the gap for the rest of the race. So tomorrow will be different, and it will be cooler, so I think the lap times will be faster anyway. So.
Congratulations on win number 3.
Thank you very much.
And when you look at just the race that you had today, what did you learn that you can apply to tomorrow?
I think the biggest thing is kind of where the tire stabilizes at and how different it is to the phases of the race. So doing that same thing, probably need to push a bit harder in the morning tomorrow just because the track will be cooler. But again, thanks to the team, they gave me an awesome car and I was able to run long. And Daniel and Tony and Leonard and everyone in the crew are amazing. So you know you can't do it without them. So thank you.
Congratulations to Chris. And as Jeff Rica gets his helmet off, you know he had that incident in Sonoma that took you out of contention in race number 2. But back on the top step here, you said it was a new chassis. What was the effort to get this ready for Sebring?
It was a last-minute thing type deal. We were trying to get the other chassis ready and prepared. It just wasn't going to happen. So we ended up using a backup chassis, wrapping it, getting it here, running it at COTA as well. And going to get that chassis back for VAR at least. So you'll see 5 cars there. So it'd be pretty cool to see. Guys on Hyundai USA, Hyundai Korea, Licomali, touring car. Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Congratulations, Jeff.
Great stuff and wonderful to hear. I know Jeff Rica last year had told us they had a big plan coming. They were planning on showing up with an armada at the start of this year of those Hyundais that they build in-house there at Gin Racer. Didn't see it in Sonoma, but sounds like there is some growth coming, which is certainly welcome news.
Yeah, well, it's certainly inviting for anyone who's looking at prospective entry. They're kind of the benchmark team and platform in TC at the moment.
Does appear that way, although the Mini team probably would like to challenge for that. Certainly in the TCA class, it's been all Mini all the time. PJ Gronke, Amanda, 3 wins to start the year.
And Ryan, he said that this feeling is not getting old at all, but he said, I have my first podium at Sebring. I know you told Ryan that you like it down here because it's hot, but what else makes Sebring so special?
Sebring is just a magical place. It has that history, the heritage, being a World War II airfield, the bumps, which are nuts. It's hot as hell. It's just one of those magical places, and to finally step on the podium here, on the top step, it's a dream come true.
Now, PJ, you've made your own history.
Yes, I did. Absolutely. Thanks, man.
Congratulations.
Thank you, guys. Mini USA #1.
He's an avid surfer, too, so the hang 10 hand sign there, that'll come natural to PJ Gronke. Big smile on his face, as you expect to see. He's one of the most lighthearted guys around. So, highlights from race number 1 of the season, and it was Chris Walsh who started, not of the season, of the weekend, sorry. Chris Walsh started on the pole and was able to hang on to that lead from there. Good fights, though, here. Celso Neto fighting with father and son Catania. Ultimately, looked like Neto was going to hang on here, but was told to give this position back by race control. Battles here between Gin Racer teammates Ruben Iglesias and Sally McNulty. Joey Jordan late in the going in the Corp Sport Mazda dropped back after running as high as second. He would ultimately finish 5th in TC. Chris Walsh, though, got the job done here today, picking up his 3rd win in as many races to start a brand new season. Soon, we'll turn the attention to tomorrow for race number 2 of the weekend for TC America, powered by the Skip Barber Racing School.